by profession, and in my spare time, I'm a soldier. I'm joking, not in my spare time, that's my full-time job. Tonight's event is a partnership with UNISA's College of Graduate Studies, the Institute for African Renaissance Studies, and the Afrocentric group, whose chairperson, Dr. Anna Mokgokong. I had to practice saying that name so many times because Dingumxhosa, and saying a Tswana name, well, it doesn't roll too well in my tongue. I hope I've said it correctly. It's a Pedi name. I'm wrong there too. So Dr. Anna will be delivering our keynote address with the title, No One Left Behind. This is responding to the 25 years of democracy in South Africa. 148 years ago, that is in 1871, Mahomi Charlotte Manya, a daughter of the Bahlokwa people in Limpopo, was born to John Khope and Anna Manci. Again, the name pronunciation, if it's not Xhosa, is going to be far off. You will please forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, what we hope to do is highlight the values of Maxeke. We highlight what she stood for and how we can all continue in her work in making our country a greater place for us all and to ensure that no one is left behind. On the screen, if you came in earlier, there's hashtags if you'd like to take pictures and post us on social media. There we go. All right. Firstly, I'd like us to begin with our national anthem as per protocol. And to do that for us today is the Davidson Positive Vibration, followed by Reverend Rantlakeng. I hope I said it right. Positive vibrations, please come to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, into emnandi iyalindwa. I'm sure they're gonna blow us away. They're on their way.
can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. And if you can rise, bring someone with you.
Ke ranthekeleng a re rapeleng. Heavenly Father, the Father to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Dear Lord, this evening we come before your throne of mercy. Lord, not trusting in our righteousness, but Father, trusting in your mercy. For we know, Lord, some of us early in the morning when we woke up, we didn't even, Father, to thank you. But through your mercy, Heavenly Father, the day is coming to an end. Father, still alive, ourselves and our children. At this present moment, Father, when we are about to stand the service or the service of your person, Mrs. Maxeke, we invite the Holy Spirit. Hore o itle theowe e tlo nka sebaka. Hobane wena modimo ya halalelang o tsebile ha motho wa hao ka letsatsi la kajeno ha ane a hlaha manna a hla teng motseng oo hore ho hla senatla se tla tsamaya mafatshe kaofela. Ha o le jwalo moya o halalelang ka sebaka hobane re a tseba ka nako ele ha motho wa hao Jesu mabali a matla a sheba setjhaba a re tle re ha o phahama o ska phahama o le mong. Re a tseba morena ba bang ba rona ka hobane re se re le hodimo mole re lebala mantswe a ngwana hao. Mosebetsi ona re beha matsong a hao Jesu mabali a matla e tle re selemo le selemo ha re ntse re keteka ha re ntse re etsa mosebetsi wa ngwana hao. Mosebetsi a ha ikene dipelong tsa rona Jesu mabali a matla o tlo bonahale le rona ba ne ba nkile tsa rona le rona ba ne ba tsamaya ka thato ya rona re ikokobetsa hobaneng e meng ya melao ye meholo Kriste mabali a matla o kileng wa e beya e re o tla rata wa heno jwale ka o ithata. Empa Jesu mabali a matla ba teng bana ba hao modimo mosa ba re ba fetang fela ba senang letho. Re etse moya o halalelang re etse Jesu hore re tle re tsamaye maotong a marona Charlotte Jesu mabali a matla hore o tlo bonahale ha re tswa ka rutulo ena hore ha re etse ka tlwaelo empa re etsa re utlwisisa hore re kile ra rutwa hore e mong le e mong a tle wa thuso wa habo e ba le batho bohle ba tla bua tephameng ya letsatsi la kajeno o tlo ba fe matla Jesu modimo mosa e tle re tse ba tla di bua e tle di thole mobu o nenneng ka hore dipelo tsa rona tsena kaofela re di kopa re di tshepile lebitsong la Jesu Kriste jwale le ka mehla yohle. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, to welcome us to tonight's Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Memorial Lecture, I'd like to invite on stage, and please again caution on time. I know I said we agreed to 5 minutes, but if we can cut it down to 3 minutes so that we are ahead of time and on 20 past 6 we can go live. Are we okay with that, ladies and gentlemen? I'll take that as a yes. Yes? All right, I'd like to invite Professor Mannya-Maxeke on stage. He's the Principal and Vice Chancellor of UNISA.
Program Director, thank you so much for this opportunity. Ambassador Yololo Mabuyana, members of the Mannya and Maxeke families present here tonight. Mr. Thulasizwe Makhanya, Chairperson of the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute. Dr. Musawenkosi Sarwumbe, Member and Ambassador of Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute and Board of Directors. Mrs. Bongingema Zuma, former First Lady of the Republic of South Africa. Our Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngagula, Minister of Defense and Military Veterans and Member of our Parliament. Honorable members of Parliament who are here with us tonight, Dr. Anna Mokgokong, Chairperson of Afrocentric Group, businesswoman and philanthropist, members of our management who are with us here tonight, but I think it's also appropriate to greet the husband to Dr. Anna Mokgokong, as well as his sister who is with us here tonight as well. Let me also greet Advocate Sonwabile Mangochwa, Chief Executive Officer of the National Heritage Council, Reverend P.J. Mengwanya of the AME Church, and other members of the ecclesiastical community, members of the African National Congress, members of the media fraternity, members of all the other political formations who may be with us here tonight, distinguished members of the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Dumelang, Abshin, Huyanand, bonsoir. Program Director, let me quickly from the onset express my absolute gratitude to the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute for choosing UNISA as a partner for this august occasion, the Memorial Lecture in honor of May Maxeke. In choosing Dr. Anna Mokgokong as the keynote speaker, you have chosen one of the skills that are required by our country. She is in herself an inspiration to many other women, especially young women. It is also fitting that attending today's event is an array of inspirational women whose collective presence and dedication to women's empowerment can only serve as further inspiration to all our young women in this country and further afield on our continent. This being a memorial lecture held in an institution of our learning, whose head I'm privileged to be one, I have chosen to focus on the meaning of May Maxeke for us as academics, but also as institution of our learning in particular. What struck me immediately when going through the biography of May Maxeke was the fact that she was both an intellectual and political colossal. In trying to unpack on these two features, I realized that May Maxeke is recognized mainly within the political sphere. Her contribution is, however, inadequately memorialized within the intellectual's realm. It is thus critical to point this one, though, that it is not just the memorization that we should be interested in. It is her intellectual contributions and how she weaved that within the practical interventions that we should mainly be focusing on. My intention, therefore, in this short contribution, which is but a preface to the keynote address, is to examine that which I would like to term the meaning and contribution of May Charlotte Maxeke to Black women's expression and struggle for liberation. There you go. Someone in the audience might want to pick up that as a PhD thesis. We are at university, by the way, and I would like to invite those who want to study. This is a topic for you. Does peace acknowledge us tonight? I may even serve, by the way, as a supervisor, because I'm keen to do so, but for those who are keen to study and use. First of all, May Maxeke expressly defined normative responses and relations that Black women were forced into by the time. On the one hand, her defiance was against a macro-political and economic system that was framed against Black people in general, but also Black working class in particular. On the other, she was coming from the feudal traditional system that worked against Black women. Let me proceed to state that May Maxeke was in fact a pioneer in the studies of sciences and higher education study in general. She defied all the odds and obtained a Bachelor of Science in 1901, at a time when even Black men were not allowed to study the sciences. We will note that as a university established in 1873, as the first university in this country, science education study at post-matric level really picked up largely after the 1872 diamond rush in Kimberley, as well as the 1886 gold rush in the Witwatersrand, when there was a need for local engineers. It was after these two episodes that the study of the sciences, in particular engineering, became established. Thus, Memorial, I want to argue, should be seen as one of the pioneers of higher education in this country across all races. The second area that I just wish to highlight briefly about Memorial was her pioneering and, in particular, establishing what we may term as the first seeds of Pan-African and Black consciousness thought in this country, working as she did within the nationalist tradition of the African National Congress. By helping to found the African Methodist Episcopal Church upon her return from the USA, she was expressing the need for Black people to reclaim their voices and to organize themselves freely. This resolve to see Black people asserting their God-given gift and right to freedom would later find expression in the founding of the Black Women's League, the forerunner of the African National Congress Women's League. Through these initiatives, Memorial was challenging what Deborah Gay Geld identifies as, quote, domestically for African women, unquote, which was promoted by early missionaries. The third area that I just wish to share with you quickly, and indeed one that naturally is closer to my heart, is her intellectual legacy. It is sad to note that this area is yet to receive focused attention. By this, I do not mean popular allusions, such as the one that we are going to be talking about. My concern is not finding enough about Memorial in the academic research outputs. It is against this disturbing backdrop that it was pleasing to come across Tozama April's PhD study on Memorial at University of Western Cape, titled Theorizing Women, the Intellectual Contributions of Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke to the Struggle of Liberation in South Africa. In her study, she places Maxeke alongside prominent intellectuals in the 20th century. In agreeing with April, let me state without any fear of contradiction that understood within the context of defying stereotypes against women and showing deep love for poor and marginalized, Maxeke stands on an international pedestal alongside her contemporaries, Ida Wells in the USA and Rosa Luxemburg in Germany. Through her life, Maxeke left us a legacy of using education to examine the existential conditions under which the poor and the marginalized live, shown in her writings as illuminated by April. Importantly, she demonstrated that the role of intellectual is to realize, as she quoted, provided in the Institute in the profile, that, quote, this work is not for yourselves. Kill that spirit of self and do not live above your people, but live them. If you can rise, bring someone with you, unquote. So program director, in this era of consumptionism and selfishness, all direct results of greed that is associated with capitalism, as a people who have seen our country being in the clutches of corruption, these words by Memorial are a poignant reminder for us to return to the vocation of a dedicated public service. We must therefore ask ourselves and concern ourselves primarily with the study of the life and ideas of this colossal Memorial in order to learn and be inspired by her life. For my colleagues here at the university, the challenge is for us to study her life and the ideas that she expounded in such a profound manner. I have no doubt that out of that will emerge the rich findings as well as everything else that will inspire generations to come. To our own institute and the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute, I wish to say, as a university, we are keen to explore possible collaborations that will take the legacy of this colossal further afield so that everyone else must learn from it and respect for themselves for being African. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor. As the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute, we've had a number of meetings with our second partner, the Institute for African Renaissance Studies. This has led up to tonight's lecture. They have shared their passion and their drive to spread the word about the life and the work of Mam Charlotte Maxeke. Tonight, I'd like to invite Professor Lindy Wezungu. She is the Executive Dean of the College of Graduate Studies. Professor, please come to stage.
Program Director, Ambassador Mabuyane, our Vice Principal and Vice Chancellor, Professor Makanya, Mrs. Bonginge Mazuma, our former First Lady of the Republic of South Africa, Minister Nosi Viwe, Mapisa Ngagula, Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Dr. Anna Mokgokong, Chairperson of Afrocentric Group, Businesswomen and Philanthropists, all protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good evening. I stand here today humbled and excited by the commitment to our scientific and cultural heritage by the African National Congress, the National Heritage Council, and UNISA's Institute for African Renaissance Studies. In respect of the selfless stalwart that Mokgokong Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke. Taking stock of all her monumental achievements, Mama Charlotte is a lodestar that is followed by constituent members of our College of Graduate Studies. We take particular interest in the often ignored fact that Mama Charlotte pursued academic excellence along her activism, which I'm proud to say made her the first Black woman to graduate with a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from a United States university by the 1950s. Unlike the fact of her being born outside Bochum in Limpopo or in the Eastern Cape, this fact of her achievement is not in dispute. For us in the College of Graduate Studies and the Institute for African Renaissance in particular, the sheer ability to bring scientific thought to the socio-political problems of our country defines the agenda of the multi- and interdisciplinary character of the College of Graduate Studies. It's in this self-same vein that besides the stalwart Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke being an organic intellectual, by providing her scientific bravery in the creation of a free, non-racial democratic dispensation for all in South Africa, the Institute for African Renaissance Studies unequivocally commits to institute's knowledge production for the African Renaissance from a multi-, inter- and transdisciplinary scholarship perspective. From this perspective, and in relation to the strategic importance of this memorial lecture, this event relates to the College of Graduate Studies and the Institute for African Renaissance Studies participation in high-level local and Pan-African community scholarship and intellectual engagement. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to highlight a few examples in this regard. Beyond supervising 63 master's and doctoral students, the flagship program of the Institute of African Renaissance Studies is to present the management of democratic elections in Africa with a view of promoting capacity building training program to 36 countries in Africa, including the IEC of South Africa. The purpose of this program is to build the knowledge and skills capacity for effective and responsible management of elections in South Africa and the rest of Africa. From 2011 to 2018, the Institute trained a total of 778 students. In as far as international cooperation is concerned, the leadership of the Institute was identified as the leading institution for the implementation of a memorandum of agreement between UNISA and the government of Somalia in February 2019. The program will encompass capacity development of Somalia government officials, starting off with election officials, commissioners, and diplomat training, and educational capacity development in collaboration with the Somalia National University. For the one dimension that mattered to Mama Charlotte, that is community engagement. The Institute, in collaboration with the Institute for Dispute Resolution in Africa established a knowledge center in the San community of Platfontein near Kimberley in the Northern Cape. The center was completed in October 2018, and the establishment of the center is an intervention identified during community engaged participatory research with the community under the leadership of the Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, please be on the lookout for the book that comes out this April 2019, The Challenges of Political Successions and Elections in Africa. It's edited by our Institute scholars and associates, and this is one of the many evidence of excellent scholarship originating from the College of Graduate Studies that is spearheaded by our esteemed colleagues at the Institute. Suffice to conclude that there is a clear intention on our part as the University of South Africa to further collaboration and a possible memorandum of agreement between UNISA and the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute, and hopefully with the Afrocentric group. Now more than ever, we need community-engaged research and youth capacity building programs with the emphasis on young women. To this end, a firm basis has already been set with projects that empower women in heavy-duty industries such as mining as well as the Defense Force. These were successfully rolled out by one of our esteemed colleagues at UNISA in collaboration with the relevant stakeholders. Perhaps in honor of Mama Charlotte, it is opportune that Minister Mapisa Ngagula will enable us as the College of Graduate Studies to further the work that UNISA has done on ensuring and promoting that the health and safety of women in the South African National Defense Force is promoted by securing an endowed research chair for occupational health for women in mining. This will be a fitting tribute for memorializing the scholarly legacy of Mama Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke. We sincerely and deeply
for the liberation of their country from racist minority rule. Others were fortunate to witness the birth of a new nation and contribute to efforts to uplift the lives of all South Africans and restore dignity to the oppressed black majority. 20 days from today, on the 27th of April 2019, we celebrate the 25th anniversary of our freedom and democracy. Some were fortunate to live to see the day when millions of South Africans of all races patiently waited in long queues to cast their votes to give birth to a new nation. A few days later, on the 10th of May 2019, we as a nation will relive that moment when Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as the first president of a non-sexist, democratic South Africa. Leaders from all over the world gathered at Union Buildings in 1994. Yesterday, remember, we marked the 40th anniversary of the execution of Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu in Pretoria. The apartheid regime ignored pleas from the international community to spare the life of a 23-year-old Mokgokong freedom fighter. As we celebrate live on the margins of society trapped in poverty. The proliferation of informal settlements has created unacceptable levels of squalor with all its attendant social and economic ills. High levels of unemployment, especially amongst our young people, not only deepen poverty but pose a serious threat to the stability of the nation. We in the African National Congress and government made a covenant with the people of South Africa to better their lives. We cannot honor the memory of Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke and our heroes and heroines if we fail to deliver on this solemn undertaking. How fitting, therefore, that UNISA took it in its stride to observe and commemorate the life and times of Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke at this educational institution. It may actually be fitting, Prof, that the university considers at an appropriate time to name one of its buildings, institutions, or programs after Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke. As has already happened with other leaders such as Z.K. Matthews and Oliver Tambo. Mama Charlotte and other stalwarts who came after her, such as Lillian Ngoyi, Florence Moposho, Gertrude Shope, Jackie Sitebe, and many, many others, unsung, defied a powerful enemy to forge a pathway to freedom. Those who followed in her footsteps decades later were people of the highest integrity who eschewed personal comforts and put their own lives in peril for a greater good. We should emulate their example. We are now in control of government, armed with a strong mandate from the electorate to uplift the lives of our people. We do not face the dangers that Mama Maxeke and all other heroes and heroines labored under in their fight for our freedom and dignity. The only way to honor Mama Charlotte today is by serving the nation with integrity and a high work ethic in discharging the tasks and responsibilities assigned to us. As a political class in South Africa, we believe that statues, naming streets, cities, and airports after struggle stalwarts and writing eulogies about them is the best way to honor them. It is not necessarily so, actually. We should follow their example of selfless sacrifice and embrace the values that drove them to risk their lives to fight injustice. We should reject a viewpoint that attaches importance to the accumulation of wealth by whatever means and see it as unacceptable criminal behavior that has the poor and vulnerable in our country as its main victims. Today, we pay tribute to Mama Charlotte because of her accomplishments and selfless deeds. She achieved this at a time when throughout the world, women were treated as minors. In all the writings about her, only her achievements against all odds and commitment to fight against injustice and oppression of Black people and women are featured. There is not a single line about what material positions and money her family had. She was respected and honored because she had an indomitable spirit to see to the end justice would prevail. The belief in the inevitable triumph of their struggle is that what drove heroines and heroes like Charlotte is that deep commitment to justice. Our responsibility to make South Africa a prosperous and stable home for all its people should be what drives this generation, not self-aggrandizement. Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke's Johannesburg Hospital is known to all who live in our largest city and beyond. It used to serve only white people in the previous minority dispensation. It was quite appropriate for it to be renamed after this brave woman who had the confidence in the 1900s to find common cause with like-minded white women to fight injustice. I must also mention that when the ANC was still in exile, there was a dedicated center for women and children in Tanzania, which was named after Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke. It was fondly called the Charlottes. She was a woman in many ways who was ahead of her time. But who was she? There is very little knowledge out there about this remarkable woman. How many of us, even in the ANC Women's League, in the ANC, and the public at large know about the story of Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke? So I share some of what you said, Professor. Are the people responsible for developing curricula for schools, including life stories of people like the founding president of the ANC Women's League, the successor organization of the Bantu Women's League? Why? Why don't we have this in our curriculum? Truth of the matter is, the only story we know is that in 1994, Mandela walked out of Victor Verster, and through that, we were able to acquire freedom. Of particular interest to me, as a former Minister of Correctional Services, is Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke's pioneering position as the first black female parole officer for juvenile delinquents. While involved in all of this work, she found time for religious duties in her church. Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke's work as a religious leader, social worker, political leader, a worker leader, education, and philanthropist has been widely recorded and recognized. It should serve as an inspiration to women today and generations to come. The fight for gender equality is still one we are grappling with even today. 140 years since the birth of Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke and 80 years since her passing. Even in the developed countries, women continue to be discriminated against in all spheres of life. In South Africa, violence against women and children has reached epidemic proportions. It is a fight that has to be led by strong and tenacious women like Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke. It is a fight we cannot give up and must pass on to the next generation. The ANC Women's League, which Mama Mannya-Maxeke founded, must find, together with the rest of the women, common cause with other organizations to place the fight for gender equity as top of its priority. In the eulogy to Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke, during her burial in Kliptown on the 16th of October, 1939, it ended with the words, and I quote, "She was everyone's friend and no one's enemy," close quote. Let us pick up from where Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke left off and continue to carry her banner in all areas of endeavor she traversed. She was indeed an African feminist ancestor. Thus was the remarkable life of Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke. I thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zuleika Patel. I am an ambassador to the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute, a high school student and an activist. I am here to represent the Maxeke value of unity. Join us on our hashtag Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke, hashtag no one left behind. I now introduce a woman of fortitude, a powerhouse, a force, a passionate South African who stood firmly on the rights of women and their empowerment in all sectors, especially business. She is the chairperson of the Afrocentric group and a great supporter of tonight's event. Let us all welcome Dr. Anna Mokgokong as she delivers the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Memorial Lecture, No One Left Behind, responding to 25 years of democracy in South Africa.
Thank you so much, dearest, for that illustrious introduction. Thank you. As time is of the essence tonight, I will get back to the business of the night as soon as I can. Esteemed guests, compatriots, I greet you all. I would have loved to acknowledge you all individually, but I think the gentleman on the left is reminding me that time is of the essence, so I better get back to it. Let me first express my sincere gratitude for the invitation and privilege to deliver this memorial lecture honoring Charlotte Mannya. I know how to pronounce her name well. I come from where she comes from, Kobutokwa. Mannya-Maxeke. A woman referred to as the mother of black freedom in South Africa. Uyimbokodo, uyindlovukazi. Kobona barikisinatla. Malibongwe. In this third edition of the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Week, it should be a poignant intention that this memorial lecture highlights her history, teachings, and legacy of this inspiring icon, Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke, through the topic, No One Left Behind. Redefining Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke's call in our 25 years of democracy. There should be an endless need to highlight her legacy because she was an icon, a pioneer, an activist, an evangelist, a symbol of resistance, a scholar, a torchbearer, and trendsetter. Don't we require such role models generationally? Allow me to visit the archives and quote from one of the speeches she delivered in 1930, titled, Social Conditions Among Bantu Women and Girls. Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke said, the woman, the wife, is the keystone of the household. She holds a position of supremacy. For is she not directly and intimately concerned with the nurturing and upbringing of the children of the family, and also extended, when I say family, I mean extended family, the future generation. She is their first counselor and teacher. On her rests the responsibility of implanting in the flexible minds of her young the right principles and teachings of modern civilization. Indeed, on her rests the failure or success of her children when they go out in life. It is therefore essential that the home atmosphere be right, that the mother be the real queen of the home, the inspiration of a family. If her children are to go out into the world equipped for the battles of life, if you definitely and earnestly set out to lift women and children up in social life of the Bantu, you will find the men will benefit, and thus the whole community, both white and black. She continues, because it's rather a long speech. What we want is more cooperation and friendship between the two races and more definite display of real Christianity. To help us in solving all these riddles, let us try to make our Christianity practical. You know, some people like to make Christianity very complex when it's quite simple. From this quote, it is clear what Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke spoke to be understood and not only to sound good. She resolved that if women of this country were to take this nation forward, they must first assert their right
to claim their soul as their own. Because it's only when an individual is fully developed in mind and soul that they can assert their position, have influence, and impact the lives of others. These were harsh but heady times when the ardent yearning for a better life for all inspired ordinary people like her to take extraordinary action, given that period and era. One is talking about, do you believe this? Over a century ago. I'm not talking Maubanemo. A century ago. Can you believe that South African women were of that standing and thinking so long ago? Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to address her, Prof. Makanye, as Dr. Maxeke, and not Charlotte or Mayor Maxeke. As she was honored by an academic institution in recognition of her contribution to the upliftment of society. Tonight, we are hosted here by you, Prof. Makanya, UNISA, the formidable UNISA, which is the largest distance learning institution in the hemisphere. Here, titles are the order of the day. Dr. Maxeke symbolized the unsung heroines who kickstarted the anti-apartheid movement. Ever quiet and unassuming, her polite resistance to racial convention did not begin by happenstance. Dr. Maxeke knew that this country would remain poor if the unity of women was weak. Women have to unite against exploitation in political, social, economic, and spiritual facets. I believe her exposure through her intensive travel and education gave her perspective and depth into how she would participate in being the change agent she wanted to be in our society. Her activism helped strike a blow to racial segregation. That is why today she stands with others who are blessed with the strength to stand against a vile system and help change South Africa. Here is evidence that she helped to change South Africa for the better. Because of her profound contribution to leadership, to our leadership. Remember, she was a sole agent amongst many, but her quiet voice was profound. Our first non-racial democratic election in April 1994 was based on the values of our Constitution: human dignity, human rights, equality and freedom, non-racialism and non-sexism, supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law. Many of them have provisions specifically aimed at addressing gender discrimination. South Africa is making great strides in gender equality and women's rights and is a model state in Mother Africa and globally. Because of her passion for women's rights and that of others, we've witnessed several advancements of women occupying leadership positions since the dawn of democracy. South Africa now boasts having women heading both houses of parliament, Thandi Modise at the National Council of Provinces and Baleka Mbete at the National Assembly, and a female president of the Supreme Court of Appeal, Judge Mandisa Maya. Hence, 35% of permanent judges are women. Today, women constitute 42% of the cabinet and 57% of both houses of cabinet. Sisaya kona, sisakwela. We're not stopping here at 42%. While women remain significantly underrepresented in corporate South Africa, Minister Mapisa, you'll be shocked to hear, corporate South Africa is doing badly. At board and leadership level, the JSE gender requirements appears to have been a contributor to motivating companies to be introspective regarding their gender diversity at board level. Just listen to this. Honorable Minister, 10% of 267 JSE companies analyzed in recent survey, have achieved gender parity on their boards. 10%. Anyway, where do we come from? From zero. So 10% is getting us somewhere. I must commend our 2 female leaders at the JSE, being the chairperson and the CEO, as they lead through example by really demanding that all companies listed on the JSE must submit annually that gender parity position. That's where we are at now, and we are now changing. Women are closing the gender gap in areas such as health and education, but significant gender inequality still persists in many areas. Dr. Maxeke would probably be pleased to learn that strides have been made in women's political empowerment globally, especially in Africa. You know, South Africa is a trendsetter, you know that. So Africa is following very well, I must say. Rwanda now has set a new world record for women representation in parliament, leading the world at 68%. South Africa follows Rwanda. You'll be amazed that some of the G8 countries, which are leading economically, lag badly behind. And it's still a men's world, like Japan, for example, where we're talking of women's representation of only 9%. I mean, these are facts. Numbers don't lie, gentlemen and ladies, they don't lie. On this 145th anniversary of Dr. Maxeke's birth and 25 years into democracy, it is time to reflect on why, amidst the conducive laws and policies, change is moving at a snail pace. Perpetual fight against race, class, and long battle of cultural beliefs that marginalize women retard progress regretfully. Women still suffer high levels of physical violence, femicide, other manifestations of gender discrimination at work and other spheres of life. Why? Why is it that we continue to occupy the unenviable position of being a country with a high Gini coefficient, of which women constitute a significant number? Could it be that we lack the commitment, aggression, and willingness to address this conundrum? What will be the legacy of this generation in a century's time? Remember, today we're celebrating Dr. Maxeke's legacy and life. We see what strides she made. What will be the celebration in a century's time of our time? This is the question I pose to all of us. In a country that has one of the most liberal constitutions in the world, and our government congratulated for the high women representation in parliament and in many sectors, where are we missing it? As the foundation has been laid through policy, this has been laid, the policy is there. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't fault the South African policy towards gender development and parity. It's there. But why does corporate South Africa be relating such horrific statistics? Why? More women are unemployed than women. Almost 1.5 times more women than men have no formal education, and teenage pregnancy remains a significant threat to young women's career prospects. This is a social ill of our time. As if that's not enough, here comes the mother of all strifes, diseases such as HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and mostly impact women's lives, thus rendering them unproductive, as women are most vulnerable. I found myself pondering on this question. If a century ago, a black woman was able to attain a BSc degree, participate and contribute meaningfully in the social and political spheres, if anything, we should be seeing far more change than we're seeing right now, loaded with the policy and armed with the policy and all the financial means this country has today. Kwalapi, where are we getting it wrong? It is well and good to identify challenges and problems and criticize and talk, but where does this take us to? We have to find solutions. We have to find solutions as South Africa, as a nation. And it won't help us to be criticizing every day, every moment. What should be done? It is said, history judges us by the wisdom of our actions. Firstly, given Dr. Maxeke's background, we have established that the premise from which she thought on women's issues was from a Christian basis. Her strong values and principles underpinned her social and political ideology that helped shape her political views and focus for the betterment of the nation across all races. Therefore, for us to be able to find solutions, we need to go back to fundamentals, the foundation of our thinking process. Where are we moving from? And what is our final destination? Do you know what it is? What's the guiding principle we premise our thoughts? How do we resolve our social ills and injustices? How do we begin to narrow the gap between the have and have-nots, women suffering the most from poverty? I strongly believe that inclusive economies, hard work, and resourcefulness are powerful catalysts in resolving the existing cycle of poverty that besiege our nation. No woman should be left behind on a crucial path to equality, as their role is pivotal in this inclusive economy. Let us afford women the opportunity to lead key sectors of the mainstream economy of our nation, and not just be a labor force and a lucrative market for their goods. We are not. We are leaders, and we can lead, even in corporate South Africa. Give us an opportunity, says our boost. We need swift and decisive action that can be brought about by the world of work so that women don't lag further behind. Many economic battles of women in the work environment that have been fought by the likes of Dr. Maxeke have been won, some with unintended ramifications, but the war on meaningful participation in the economy rages on. We lamented the resignation of Maria Ramos from ABSA because what that meant was that there would be a void, as currently, as I stand here and speak here, we do not have a female CEO leading any of the top 40 companies on the JSE. As I speak here today, not tomorrow, here, today. Thanks to Bidvest for nominating a female candidate. At least in the near future, there'll be one. Let's take the South African workforce for an example. According to the South African Revenue Service data, women on average earn 28% less than men. Excluding personal choices of whether to work or not, the problem in South Africa is that men have better access to higher paying jobs than women do. In lower income brackets, men and women on average earn about the same. Recent figures from the South African Revenue Services showed just over 300 women earned 5 million or more per annum. And yet, in contrast, more than 3,000 men fall in this category. We need our brothers to stand up and say, these are issues and challenges we want to tackle with you. And that is the spirit of no one left behind. It also includes men. It's a collective effort. We must grow beyond the point where men, usually those with fragile egos, feel the need to lord over someone they view as weaker in order to feel good about themselves. We need to go beyond that. If the likes of Warren Buffett could recognize the profound influence and impact of women-led companies, then the rest of the world does not need much convincing. He has seen it and has admitted to it. A recent article in Forbes Woman said, open quote, there's been a great deal of research which suggests the value of having gender-diverse management teams. For example, companies that have more than 3 women in management positions tend to have better return on equity and assets than those with fewer women. They also tend to score higher on organizational effectiveness criteria. They continue to say, the research further found that women leaders are more likely to demonstrate what is known as communal values, friendliness, support, and a caring attitude, rather than the approach of assertiveness and dominance. The communal style of leadership delivers great benefits to business, thus empowering women and promoting gender equality, which is good for business. It's not just an ethical thing, it grows business. I'm not just speaking out of passion, because I'm very passionate about this subject, but you will be pleased to know there's empirical evidence that supports it. As Kuluminje, the numbers, you know, researchers do the research. I'm glad that the University of Pretoria's self-initiated research grants prioritize women in their awards. For example, this year, 54% of research grants were awarded to women, and 41% of these were Black women. Moreover, the grants were for projects as innovation in cancer treatment, addressing diabetes burden, understanding mental health, and others. And by the way, 55% of the students are women at UP, and 88% of staff members at the South African Medical Research Council are women. This will certainly make Dr. Maxeke proud as a scientist, as she was the first Black South African woman to obtain a BSc degree. This shows that we are fully capable, even in tackling the sciences. We know the grim reality that faces the girl child today. Rising high school dropout rates, teen pregnancy, drug abuse, sexual abuse, obesity, high rates of sexual transmitted diseases. I commend the Dr. Maxeke Foundation for canvassing for sanitary pads to distribute during this very special week. As this also remains one of our challenges, as some girls miss days of school due to menstruation and not having the necessary support. Thank you, Awanda, too. On your recent birthday, you also, decided that no gifts, but sanitary pads. We need more of such people. And I just want to say, she was fearless. She was an adventurous person, ventured across the seas to achieve all kinds of things. And as a graduate, a science graduate from a poor background, she was fortunate enough to be able to achieve great heights during that time. I feel in our era, we need to strengthen our support and resources to afford the girl child to step into normal womanhood and get sound education so as to prepare her well for the future. Let's not have the girl child at the age of 13 be a mother. It's too early in life. She needs education. Ladies and gentlemen, the girl child needs to take up careers in STEM to break free from the stereotype that these fields are only meant for men. Thus, our educational system needs to step up career guidance programs to empower women for the future. It will be important for women to lead innovation for global recognition. The most toxic situation today is to appoint women as tokens and not based on their potential and expertise, where they're more than likely to fail. Chronism and nepotism also being a catalyst to this failure, as our nation needs to appoint the appropriate people in positions. Women need to improve and assert themselves. They must improve their self-belief. Disempowerment experience at social level eventually filters through a woman's self-image, where it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Therefore, one of the most powerful tools for leadership growth is personal inquiry. Let's talk to ourselves. I always tell people I talk to myself. I do engage with my inner self. I think each woman in our country must do that. Let's strengthen our assertiveness, confidence, determination, and courage No mountain must be too high for us to climb or conquer. Also sometimes being adventurous, like Dr. Maxeke did. To me, Dr. Maxeke earned her own special niche in history as a freedom fighter. And while that fight may not have ended, someone else must now lead the way. Many of our heroines have taken the baton after her to take the lead, as you all know our struggle history. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to share that with you, but you all know our struggle history. Tonight is about her. A book by Zubeida Jaffa quotes Dr. Maxeke saying at a meeting in 1917, "It is high time that the voice of black women be heard. They must ready themselves for the struggle." Many actually readied themselves for the struggle. And the march in 1956 attests to this, where women took to the streets as a collective, having suffered torture through the vile system of apartheid. And after listening to a speech by a male person, Dr. Maxeke also wanted to know, how can men liberate women from these laws if they themselves are subject to it? This confirms my earlier words that we are in it together. Because you can't defend something that you can't help yourself. At the second conference of the National Council of African Women, NCAW, in 1938 in Bloemfontein, a year before her death, Dr. Maxeke said, "The work is not for oneself. Kill the spirit of self and do not live above your people, but with them. If you rise above them, take somebody with you." Even in today's time, it's still relevant, ladies and gentlemen. Do take somebody with you. It's cold up there. Let's kill the spirit of selfishness and greed to the peril of ours. Makaza lapa, and wedwa lapa. Allow me to quote Bernard Malamud when he said, "Those who write about life reflect about life. You see in others who you are." Do we see who we are through the life that Dr. Maxeke has gracefully lived and paved the way for all those following after her footsteps? History remembers and recognizes Dr. Maxeke's contribution to our hard-earned freedom, but it's up to us to sustain her legacy. She was truly the spirit, inspiration, and courage. In our dark moments, let's utilize her spirit to uplift us. More than ever before, we are at a time in which women are playing a far more important role in business and politics, as Dr. Maxeke did. The question is, what are we doing in the positions we hold? I urge you to nurture leaders of tomorrow in her true spirit of no one is left behind. The power we have in positions should be used to effect changes and not to oppress the dissenters and glorify ourselves. The days of serving ourselves first and closing the door behind us are over. We need leaders in politics, corporate, and business fraternities to have a socialistic approach to issues and democratic resolve to problems. Let's not be found wanting and always being vilified for not being good stewards of our people and being found gathering remnants of our dignity in the end. Dr. Maxeke left a legacy. In redefining it, let's look at issues from a different perspective, from a value and principle stance. As we get empowered, sitting on the throne of economic, political, and business influence and strength, let us tap into this to touch the lives of myriads of people. I would like to commend Afrocentric, our key sponsor tonight, for having adopted Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Hospital Pediatric School that tends to children who are vulnerable and have physically lived in the hospital all their lives because of diseases such as cancer. Thank you, Afrocentric, for reaching out to those children. Let's utilize the power of unity and leadership platforms to inspire, motivate, and celebrate, and make sure that no one is left behind. rather than be the prophets of doom. South Africa has a lot of goodwill that can be harnessed in the right direction to address the diverse requirements and the needs of its people. We have a lot of goodwill. Ladies and gentlemen, I travel the world, and I can tell you, whenever I land at OR, I feel so happy to be home. There's no place like home, believe me, because of Dr. Maxeke. Our country is now a beacon of hope for women's rights the world over. And I wish to applaud those who continue to champion this valuable cause, even though it's a saying the but we're getting there. Let's not give up. During Dr. Maxeke week, so we shouldn't be left behind. Let's ask ourselves, during Dr. Maxeke week, so we shouldn't be left behind. Let's ask ourselves, are we playing the role of victim or victor? The answer depends on the efforts we're making to truly seize our liberation by chunks and not morsels. If I might be permitted to extend the metaphor, let me share a slice of my life with you. We're at Community Investment Holdings, where I'm the founding chairperson. We celebrate our 24th anniversary this year. We started the company in 1995, and I can tell you it was a hard, hard road. How do you try to be a businessman when you have no money? But however, through the efforts of Otata Mandela, they went to some of their institutions and begged them to uplift us and to support us. And that's how we rose, and that's where we are today. And we're saying, forward ever, backward never, as we move, because our leaders have set the foundation for us to build the future of this country. And I call upon all of you, let's all stand and rise, whatever corner we are standing at, wherever we are, let us build on the goodwill of our leaders. Bagithi, nisho ukuthi sesingagive up nje kanjalo. Hayi kanjalo. We would never dream of letting our leaders down by giving up so easily. All of us have had a price to pay. Let's stick it to the end. This just illustrates Dr. Maxeke's point. Where there's a will and determination, there will always be a way and progress. I wonder if Dr. Maxeke would wake up and see what's happening today. All these commissions and all what's happening, I think it's a negative spirit and karma to them. And I hope they don't just wake up to look. I hope they lie peacefully, because if they were, they would be very discouraged. As she is one of the people who worked tirelessly to advocate for social and political justice. She wasn't in the spotlight, but she exerted her greatest influence in ways that many good women operate.
So where there is a will, there is a way. We've been coming to you live from the annual Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Memorial Lecture, delivered there by businesswoman and philanthropist Dr. Anna Mokgokong. Now, I will be back 8 o'clock with all your top
women emancipation we revere. I think of her particularly now, as we are a few days away from our elections on May 8th, which reminds all of us we must stand in our numbers and head for the polling stations on that day. Let's go and vote, Bagit. Today, as we continue to face momentous challenges across the spectrums of both race and gender, I find strength and resolve in the lessons from her life and her work. Dr. Maxeke has shown that nothing comes easy. Sadly, the times of manna, utata mfundisi uphi? Ebesithandazel. Tata mfundisi. Sadly, the days of the times of manna from heaven do not continue into our generation, in our time. Zaphela ngalesa sikhathi sikaJesu. For change to come, one needs to put up a concerted effort. Change must be prodded. It must be fought for. Each and every step of the way. And in our time, I would say, change is not reversible. It's not reversible. If you are like that, seek a psychiatrist. We're not going backwards. And we must be unapologetic about it. Our heroes and heroines are looking up to us, in taking the journey further to make South Africa a better country for us all. It would be sinful to let their efforts be in vain and be futile. This is the challenge we are faced with in our time. Let's not let Dr. Maxeke's legacy disintegrate in our hands. And in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, let's dismantle the oppressive shackles of patriarchy which blind our vision and deter the progress of the emancipation of women. And sincerely, also blinding us from seeing their immense value and the impactful contribution that women like Dr. Maxeke and many others of our leaders have made in the betterment of our lives. And to our fellow women, let us seize the opportunities that are before us that can prepare us for future leadership, as Dr. Maxeke envisaged. And as we do that, let us not leave anyone behind. And to my compatriots, our fellow men, we are joined to the hip. Let's do this together. It's for our mutual benefit. And I challenge you all of the people here today, our whole nation, including people in decision-making positions, to relook and think deeper into these issues. These are the cornerstone foundations, deeply rooted in shared values and principles. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention, and may her legacy live on.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Siyanda Nxumalo. I'm one of the ambassadors at Dr. Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute. And I also happen to be a principal of a school called Ohlange Institute, which was founded by Dr. John Langalibalele Dube. As a principal, it always excites me to see some of my students. And I'm very happy to see one of my students here, former First Lady, Umama Ubongi Ngema Zuma. She's my student, by the way. I'm a very happy principal. Now, I'm also an ambassador for Charlotte Maxeke Institute, and I'm one of the few thorns amongst the many roses who are ambassadors. And one of the values that Dr. Maxeke represented was excellence. As a woman of faith, it seems like she took these words to heart when Solomon wrote in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Because in the place of the dead where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. The time to excel is now. Now, Umama Maxeke refused to suffer from the disease called give-uptism.
With housing, transport, and services for all. 4 million homes were delivered, but many are poor quality and far from jobs. The backlog is 2 million and rising. Cape Town, playground for the rich. Behind the glitz lies a deeply divided city. With seafront prices soaring, developers have moved to neighborhoods like Woodstock.
I was born in Woodstock. I'm 52 years old. I was married here, I had my children here. I have 3 children, 2 grandchildren. I don't want to be anywhere else.
Fahmida Ling occupied the former Woodstock hospital with 50 other families after they were evicted from their homes when rentals hit the roof.
The only accommodation that the council had for us was a place called Wolverine. And this is a place 30 kilometers out of the inner city. And when we came there, oh my goodness, to our shock, this was like a concentration like camp. 1 entry, 1 exit.
The occupation of the hospital was declared illegal by the city of Cape Town. Budget cuts nationally have slowed housing delivery and left private developers in the driving seat in our cities.
The problem is that there isn't the political will to either activate the informal settlement upgrading policy or the emergency housing policy.
In our divided cities, it seems everyone has their place. The removal of revelers at Clifton Beach by private security in December 2018 touched a nerve.
At the center is white people who want to keep and privatize such beauty to be white enclaves where they use force to get us out so that we can be logged in the locations in Khayelitsha, Hanover Park and places like Mfuleni.
Poor commuters rely on taxis and buses while the wealthy enjoy heavily subsidized transport like the Gautrain. Policymakers from all parties say they are doing their best to improve the lives of the urban poor.
We have to have a comprehensive approach. We must deal with the issues that have to do with crime and drugs. We must also deal with the economic opportunities, housing issues in these areas, improving infrastructure, the overall look and feel of these townships.
Back in Woodstock and Alex, people are not convinced.
There's this understanding that poor people cannot live close to the inner city, that poor people should be displaced.
What we want is to live as people who are respected, whose rights.
And he wrote back in Zabantundu and said that Tango Jababa couldn't come. That's an organic intellectual. And I'm so thanking you because indeed, all what you have said is very much important. He talks of intellectual zombies. What is an intellectual zombie? Because not everybody is an academic is intellectual. Organic intellectuals like yourself are very practical. Mama-Maxeke actually was the mother of black consciousness. But she was very practical. And Steve Biko took it and developed it because it was influenced by W. Du Bois when she actually went to start overseas. And thanks so much for that. And lastly from me, come from the Heritage Council, you have also reminded me about something, the difference between history and heritage. Not everything that is history is heritage. I've even gone, as the Heritage Council, we've even gone beyond Oxford Dictionary because Oxford Dictionary is misleading us in defining some of the terms. When they look at the defined history and we say that history is a study of change and continuity that informs consciousness and identity. Whereas heritage is an inheritance. And everything bad, good and bad. And everything that is bad, we want to inherit it. We don't want to inherit it, but we want to preserve it. But one thing that is good, we want to transfer to the next generation. I like Rwandese today as we celebrate or as we commemorate that genocide. They have opened it to the world and said, this is our painful history. Let's preserve it. I think that talks about our own statues and monuments. That Verwoerd was bad, but is part of our own history. But at the same time, we cannot celebrate Verwoerd. Having said that, from the National Heritage Council, I like, as I sit down, these young stars, every time I see them in the dialogues, Tulas. There's one who's a doctor in agriculture, and I was talking to her last night.
I think in response to that which Frantz Fanon said about each and every generation having a mission to fulfill, out of conditions of obscurity, either that mission is fulfilled or betrayed. The generation of Steve Biko never betrayed their mission. But Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute is saying that through these young stars, we'll be able to tackle the generational challenge of today and its relevance. In knowledge, you know, politicians today, their speeches are prepared. Somebody just reads a speech, sometimes there's a joke, and they can't even know that's a joke. And people are laughing because the speech has been prepared. I'm not saying all of them are that. But these young stars are challenging in the area of knowledge production. All of them. Zuleik was here, and they're challenging. There's also the Fees Must Fall generation. That even last year, they defined their mission and carried it. And they said, one will not mimic Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke, but in our own time, in our own generational challenge, we'll actually fulfill our generation. This program told us, we have spoken about it every time. Women of the first, they were white also. White people. But we've said, let's have that in our database, keep it for memory, but at the same time, it must be, because white people are part of our own nation. And then when we talk about non-racialism, we talk about the fact that they are here. Of course, their own allegiance must be in Africa. And we have said that to us. And everybody, when we say woman of the first, these awards this year are going to be one of the most, we said mother of all. I think this is one of the awards that are very important in our country. And there are many of them. I'm also seeing here Usisa, a gentleman from Tata, Ngepulana, a youngster, but also has made strides. One thing that I like about him is that he has not forgotten where he comes from. Exactly on these values, go home, do something. And at the same time, encourage people. That is what CISA is doing. Stay in Joburg, but at the same time, knowing that not everybody must come to Joburg, like Uwambolo Mahambi. As we've said, Doctor, and everything that we have said at the National Research Council, it is our duty to say that heritage is a strategic resource to humankind. Countries that do well in preserving heritage do well in the economy, as Ngugi wa Thiong'o once said. The Chinese that we're talking about today is because they've done well in preserving their own cultures. Let's pay attention to language. I was sitting one day, I'm showing that towards my end, that language, to show that's so important, Chinese beat us on language. One day, actually, a woman was narrating a story that the son was playing, our children, they like, their games. And somebody knocks at the door, selling papers. And he actually is a Zulu-speaking family. As the son goes to the door, and takes some paper. Then he takes out his things, microphones and all those things in there, and said, just hang on there. What I'm saying? Hang on. Mommy, somebody's speaking your language at the door. Because he has heard this language being spoken by my mama and Utata. Doesn't know this language. I think if we were to emulate Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke, our languages today, Professor Makanya, they are projected in 50 years to come. African languages will be dead in the manner in which we're continuing our things. They will be extinct by UNESCO. I attend UNESCO each and every year. And having said that, not only for the sake of us continuing, as heritage is the DNA of our society, let's invest on heritage. Let's ensure that in local government, in everywhere, if we are to have that, I think South Africa will never be the same again as Fidel Castro once said after the Battle of Chutukon Valley, that Africa after that battle will never be the same before and after. And we actually invest in heritage. That will happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Advocate. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 items left on the program today, and then we can proceed to dinner. I'd like to invite the last 2 of our ambassadors to introduce the family who will give the vote of thanks for all our prestige guests today. Letu and Sandra, please come to stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, with all due respect, we would like to send our very warm and humble greetings to you all. My name is Sandra Mngadi. I'm a medical student at the University of UKZN.
And I'm Thembaletu Maziboko, an industrial psychologist by profession.
And we are the ambassadors of the
CSMI. We'll be highlighting all the values of Mama Maxeke, what she stood for: feminism,
education,
excellence,
equality,
humility,
faith,
resilience,
unity,
family, and so much more. We ask you to join the movement to help us raise others up.
Started many years ago by Dr. Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke and being carried forward by fellow pioneers and visionary South African women and men.
Help us make sure that no one is left behind. We now introduce family members Mr. Max Maxeke and Mama Olga Sieme for a vote of thanks. Please follow us on www.ccmi.org.za. Please, thank you.
Thank you very much, ambassadors. I am not going to say anything because I don't want to cry. Yeah, I don't want to cry. After listening to all these people, I feel I cannot, my heart is beating and I think I cannot take it because I'm going to cry. What I want to say is, I want to quote, and my quote is, deal with it. You can't conquer what you don't confront. Women, deal with it. You can't conquer what you don't confront. This is a quote from the book of Dr. Paul White, and pastor, not Dr. Paula White, which I was reading and I'm still reading. I repeat it every now and then because it goes about the women of the Bible. Deal with it. You can't conquer what you don't confront. Let us do it, women. Let us do it. Thank you very much. I
still want to next.
Okay, he's, you know, this I'm nurturing this children. This is my nephew. This is my nephew. So, and I'm saying to them, you can see I can no more walk. You must do the work. Now, I have forgotten, and he said, you didn't say it. The Mannya family, thank you very much for bringing this lady who is a doctor today. I know she is a doctor, but we have been saying Mama. Thank you very much, the Manya family, for bringing her for the country and for the continent and for the whole world. And then principal of Utlange. Otlange, yeah, no, ke mo pedi nna ke motlokwa. Ke motlokwa. That school is very important. All the Makanyas, Kate children, were educated at Otlange. Is it Otlange? Otlange, yeah. They were educated there. And when you said you are the principal there, I said, remember, Dube did it, and you must did it also. And then Matlake's family, thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking care of this granny of us. The three of us, those two ladies and myself, that is our granny. Thank you very much for taking care of her, because if you didn't, she went through abuse and all the these kinds of things the woman goes through, we would not be standing here today.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Granny. I'm also joining the queue. If they didn't, we didn't as well. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Max Maxeke. Evening to your good selves. I am also requested together with Umam Olga. This is our mother. She's the one who really keeps us grounded, myself and Tula Sizwe. I would have thought that as I do the vote of thanks, maybe I must just share with you a story just for a minute or so. The Institute has been registered for the past 4 years. And my apology for not having recognized the people that are here. All protocol observed. I don't want to get into trouble, but I think all of us are very important today. As I said, that this institute has been registered for the past 4 years. And in this past 4 years, we have been crisscrossing the country, trying to engage mostly our government to be able to buy into the vision that we have as a family. That of ensuring that values as Mama are brought to life. And one of the things we would have said was that we are happy that the renaming process in the country, you know, naming buildings, naming all these important tools and aspects that we have in the country after our heroes and heroines. Whilst we agree it's a very important aspect, we were challenging government to say we can do more than just renaming. We must be able to bring these values to life. So as I said that we have been crisscrossing the country. I would recall that at some point we went to meet an MEC in Limpopo. So you can imagine myself, Tula Sizwe, and Umam Olga. And as we were in Limpopo, unfortunately our meeting was delayed with the MEC. You know, most leadership is never late but delayed. So our meeting was actually delayed. Leadership was never late. But that implication was very serious to the three of us. Because one was that we drove there, one with a hired car. Secondly, we didn't make any provision to sleep over because we knew that we are, it's in and out of Limpopo. And whilst we were there, we were talking behind Umam Olga to say, you know, Tulas, if it was just the two of us, we would not have a big of a challenge because we can even sleep in this car. But now we are with Umama, what do we do? Now I'm trying to narrate this story just to say to your good selves that in our endeavor to ensure that Mom's values are brought to life, these are some of the challenges that we need to traverse. And these are some of the things that we need to conquer. And with the support of everyone, we are most likely to achieve all these intended objectives. But let me not waste your time, as I said, get into what I was requested to do, acknowledge and really thank the presence of our minister, Mema Pisa Ngukula, the MEC, Mayatula Koza, also acknowledge and thank Umam Zuma for her presence, but most importantly thank our sponsors, specifically Umama who actually, you know, also gave us wisdom. A dog, we also appreciate the company that would have also, you know, assisted us, Afrocentric. We really thank you, Mama Mokgokong, for your assistance, and for really believing in what we would want to see unfolding. But again, let me also thank Advocate Mangodwa for having been there, walking this path with us, and also believing in ensuring that you know, we ensure that Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke lives in all of us. But I also need to thank the ambassadors, the ladies that would have spoken, that would have addressed us here. All of them, without exception, are actually working tirelessly in ensuring that you know, the institute is placed in the center of development in the country. And they do what they do. Some people call it pro bono, but I won't say it's pro bono because pro bono would have meant that because you have enough, you could most likely assist those that do not have. Now some of them might not have reached that point where they can say they have enough, so they want to share. But they are sharing their time, and they are sharing their expertise. And I think it's something that is very profound, something that we ought to inculcate as a culture in our society, in our young people, you know, to say it is not only about oneself, but it's about ourselves as a society. So thank you very much, ambassadors. We would still want to walk this path with yourselves. Let me, as I'm about to close, but also to thank all of you for being here. I want to share with you, as we said, that the Institute is now 4 years old. I would suppose that many of you would know the story of the Chinese bamboo tree. It's one of those unique trees that actually takes, what, about 5 years or so before it breaks ground. And the most important part is that in the 5 years, if you are the one who's planted it, you must continue watering it. You must ensure that you put manure. Now you can imagine 5 years without seeing any growth. Ordinarily, many of us would despair. Many of us would lose hope of this tree growing. But we're also told that after 5 years, once it breaks ground, it takes 5 weeks to reach heights that are not reached by trees that have been there for 5 years. You know, and the question then becomes, how old is the tree? Is the tree 5 weeks old, or is the tree 5 years, 5 weeks old? Now, the point I'm making is that this is our understanding as well, and we're also saying we could not see tangibles at the moment. We might not see this tall tree at the moment, but we want to invite all of you to walk this journey with us, so that when this tree breaks ground, all of us must be able to claim that we watered this tall tree. So I can promise your good selves that this institute has taken a posture a long time ago to be different from many institutes that are in the country. We're an institute that is pro-development. We're an institute that says we want to work with government, we want to work with private sector, we want to work with people from across all racial lines to ensure that we all, you know, celebrate the life that is Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke. As we close, I would want and request that you join me as we say, women united can never be defeated. 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 It is women who are the first ones to criticize another woman. It is women who are first to see limitations from another woman. It is women in the country who said first that a woman cannot be a president. It is funny. So I'm saying women united can never be defeated. A society united can never be defeated. A society united can never be defeated. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly enjoy your meals, and thank you very much for having been here with us. As we close, ladies and gentlemen, the signature tune, as I give over to our ambassador, I would request that there are these pamphlets in your table. Can we kindly just twice go through the quote, the famous quote, and maybe as we read it aloud and together, we only hope that it's something that would be embedded not only in our minds, but embedded in our hearts as well. This work is not for yourself. Kill that spirit of self and do not live above your people, but live with them. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. Can we repeat, ladies and gentlemen, one more time? This work is not for yourself. Kill that spirit of self and do not live above your people, but live with them. And if you can rise, bring someone with you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
In closing, I want to, because my nephew came a little bit late, he didn't hear the speeches that I had. Minister, thank you very much. Prof. Makanya, thank you very much. Prof. Susanti, ne? So what is it? Yeah, thank you. No, you know what? I know him as Prof, not Prof. Susanti. Prof. So, Prof, thank you very much. And Prof. Zungu, thank you very much. These are all our speakers who really inspired us. I'm inspired, I don't know about you. And thank to UNISA staff. Thank to UNISA staff for allowing us to come here and helping us. They didn't only allow us, they helped us with so many things. I don't want to name them here.
Thank you, Ma'am Olga. Thank you, Max. Our last item of the program is gift handing out of the family and our guest speaker. I'm happy to invite our timekeeping African boy, Professor Sisanti, to do the gift giving. Please give him a warm welcome again.
Like this?
Should I say it like this? Like this?
Comfortable.
Oh, okay.
Having a conversation.
Of course. Oh, okay. Oh, it's a conversation. All right. Okay.
No IFB for the presenter. She's just going to ask questions.
So I can start.
Can you count us down for a recording?
Yeah.
You will count me down.
Me? Yeah.
Okay, just check the mic.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Angidlanga lutho, angilambile ngiyafa ngithi konke.
You must also speak on the mic, okay?
I must?
You must also speak on the mic.
On the mic. Why? Why must I speak on the mic?
Just
I'm
hold the mic there,
Uh-huh.
because I think
Because I don't want the question recorded. I can always record it.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. I'm now on the mic. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, just ask a question quickly.
What did you have for breakfast?
Eggs and water.
You happy? Shop. Just when you remember when you ask questions to hold the mic by your mouth.
Okay.
And then
I'd like to have on stage all our ambassadors. Take the last keynote for the countdown.
So, Mr. Ngumalo, we're celebrating 25 years of democracy, and as you know, that's where Mandela voted for the very first time in your school. Any plans for this occasion this year? What is the school planning?
Yeah, in memorizing or in memorializing Dr. Nelson Mandela voting at Ohlange, as a school we have engaged in a program of celebrating, number one, the 25 years. That we do in the form of ensuring that learners are taught about the importance of voting. Further than that, as a school, we are going to have programs where we'll have actors and influential people and former students of Ohlange coming and talking to the learners and reminding them about the significance of what happened on the 27th of April 1994. So it's mainly using our alumni as well as us mobilizing and galvanizing the students, empowering them, you know, to use their voice, which is their vote.
What has been, what has been the historical contribution of the school? What would you say historically the school has contributed?
The school has contributed a lot in South Africa. As we will know, it was the first school to be built by a black person. Also, the founder of the school, Dr. John Langalbalele Dube, emphasized the importance of self-reliance. And also, as early as 1900, he was talking about providing education for African boys and girls. So the equality of genders was very important to him. But the school has contributed a lot in every sphere of South Africa. Like, for instance, in the political sphere, Inkosi Albert Luthuli was a student at Ohlange. We also know that Umama Utogo Didiza was also a student at Ohlange. The first deputy female president in the country, Umama Upumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, was also the student at Ohlange. Lindiwe Hendricks, who was also the deputy minister, was also the student there. But also in the field of sport, the first African to play overseas, Kalamazoo Mokgokong, was a student at Ohlange. Actually, when he got the call to go overseas, he was in class. So we have contributed so much in sport. We also know Ray Sugar Ray Kulu, a legend, and there's a stadium named after him. He was a student again at Ohlange. Cecil Qiliza, who played for Chiefs, and many others. Currently, we have a challenge as far as electricity is concerned. And the chairperson of the board of ESCOM and Telkom, Jabu Mabuza, was also a student at Ohlange. Judge Tabani Jali, who was leading the Land Commission, is also a former student of Ohlange. So we have a lot of people in every sphere who have been students at Ohlange and who are changing lives in South Africa and influencing how the South Africans think and how the South Africans live.
Okay. How would you describe the education at Ohlange for the black child?
You know, Ohlange is a school that wants to live according to the precepts and the prescripts of Dr. John Langalbalele Dube. And those prescripts are be self-sufficient. Agriculture was very important to Dr. John Langalbalele Dube. Using your hands, because he believed in Triple H, head, heart, hand. So entrepreneurial skills, you know, it's a buzzword today. But as early as 1900, he was talking about it. So as a school, we have introduced a number of subjects that will empower learners not to be employees, but to be employers. For instance, we have introduced motor mechanics, or currently called mechanical technology, so that learners can be able to use their skills. You know, we have a lot of scarce skills in this country that the school wants to focus on. Also, civil technology is another subject that we have also introduced. Since Ohlange is in Durban, maritime studies, they see there. Maritime studies is very important, so we are having plans to introduce it so that the learners in their education, we don't have what we call dysfunctional education, but education is functional. Nautical studies, where we are talking about the building and the construction of ships, you know, is one of the subjects that we have requested the department to assist us with. So that is what we are doing, not that learners should only have theory, but also they should be able to use their hands and empower themselves. Even after matric, a person can be able to employ themselves and employ people with those skills.
Okay. For an ordinary South African like myself, how would you describe Uhlange? What would you want people when they think of Uhlange? What must they see?
Black excellence. Whenever we talk about Steve Biko he spoke about black men, you are on your own. I normally say, John Dube lived it. Steve Biko wrote it. Why am I saying that? When the school was established, the students, they would go to the fields and farm and eat the food that was produced by themselves. They would milk the cows, herd the cows, and they would eat the milk from the cows they were herding. Shoemakers there at school, sports, like I said, he believed in head, heart, hand. Teach the head theory, let a person be empowered with knowledge. Heart, be a person with Ubuntu. When you rise, don't look down upon those who are still downtrodden there. Be a person who's caring. And then he spoke about hand. Use your own hands and not depend on somebody else for your sustainability. So Uhlange represents black excellence. As early as 1900, black people were told that you can do things without relying on somebody else.
For the last one, what are the future plans for your school? I hear that you've described that you want them to learn the making of the ships and stuff like that. But what are the future plans? Where do you see the school in the next 10 years, or even when you are not there? What would you say there is just that one thing that you want to leave the school with?
All right. Uhlange has been a boarding school, and through some challenges, the boarding dwindled because the buildings were not sufficient. One of the things we want to do as a school is to increase the capacity of learners who stay inside the school. Why? Because we want to inculcate values to them. Now, it becomes a bit challenging when you inculcate values as a school, and when a child goes to the society, you find that those values are not lived in the society. So for us, to ensure that we inculcate those values and we ensure that we measure the progress when a child moves from one grade to the next, we then believe that ensuring that we have as many learners as possible inside the school is going to help us. But further than that, we also want to ensure that what the former president said, that education should become a societal issue, is realized. The involvement of communities, the involvement of societies is very important, because the school is just a micro world. It's a small world of what is happening outside. The issues of drugs, teenage pregnancy, those things that are social ills outside the school, you will find they are imported into the school. So when we work like in a traditional pot with 3 legs, a teacher this side, a child this side, and a parent this side, we can ensure that we fight those social ills and ensure that what the child has been taught at school is also continued at home. So that is what we want to see and realize, the school becoming a citadel of light, where everyone can come and make a contribution, positive contribution, and the society and the community is very critical and key. Once we achieve that objective, the sky is the limit.
Thank you so much. We're done. Can we just do a little of a cutaway so when I introduce him? Thank you so much. Like 2 minutes of different time. Cutaway.
move this chair next to her.
Give me nice life problems.
Oh, the best two questions.
Yeah.
Oh, and how long will it be?
Now that you talk, I think I'm okay.
Oh, okay, okay, that's great.
Standing by.
Yeah.
Okay, when you're ready, ne?
Yeah.
When you're ready, we are recording.
Yeah.
They're waiting for us.
Yeah, I'm ready. Ask the question. I wanted a cutaway, not a reverse shot. I wanted a cutaway, not a reverse.
Oh, you want a cutaway?
Yes, I wanted a cutaway, not a reverse.
So, how is that cutaway?
Maybe you can show me nodding and then maybe the too short.
Okay.
Rather too short, yeah.
Do the notice now
Yeah.
and then. Okay. Sure.
Yeah,
those were noticed. Those were noticed. I'm getting a maybe too short.
Yeah, the node is 5 seconds, 4 seconds of a node.